Hi, Chef Allison here. Welcome to the Last Bite Kitchen. This week's good to the last vegetable is the Brussels sprout. Oh no, it has such a bad reputation. And that's probably because wherever you grew up, they just boiled it till it kind of made the house stink. There was nothing appealing about it. Lately, there's been a resurgence of this vegetable. You can find it in many local stores, sometimes excitingly on the stalk, which is how it grows. One big stalk with many little sprouts all around. You can actually roast that thing whole. But more often than not, you find it off the stalk like this in a bag. And you'll see it in restaurants lightly deep fried, tossed with spicy Asian flavors. And that's a wonderful way to eat it when you're out, although it can sometimes be messy in your house to heat up a big pot of oil just to deep fry a few Brussels sprouts. So absolutely, they are great roasted. And what I suggest for these is to either cut them in half or in quarters so that you expose some of the inner leaves. Let me just show you what that looks like. Because when you expose these leaves and toss them with olive oil, then the outer ones start to fall off and get crispy and delicious and caramelize. And that is really one of the main areas where the Brussels sprout really shines, when it's got a deep roast to it and it's combined with nuts or nut butter or a nut vinaigrette. When it's combined with a pork product of any kind, especially a prosciutto or a pancetta, it really loves that pork fat. Certainly, it also loves dairy and cream, so you can chop it and make a gratin out of it. And a gratin is simply the same sauce that you would use to make a mac and cheese, that bechamel sauce where you add cheese. It becomes a Mornay sauce. Toss the Brussels sprouts in some Mornay sauce and top with cheese and bake. That's a fantastic way to, number one, get a satisfying winter flavor and texture, but also use an important, very healthy, cruciferous vegetable. Another way that I like to use it might be surprising to you, and that's what I'm going to talk you through right here today. I like to eat the Brussels sprout raw. Obviously, with a whole meal combined with other things, it really makes quite a delicious bed. So in this case, what I did was actually put about 12 Brussels sprouts through the chute of my food processor with a slicing blade on it. Now I did that because my food processor was clean, ready to go. That made it much simpler for a family-sized salad, or maybe this is enough for two people. You can certainly just cut it very thin using a knife, no problem at all. Now I like this because of the texture that it gets when you food process it, and you can see it gets this kind of light, very feathery kind of shredded texture that I just love. And one of my favorite ways to dress it is, I already mentioned it pairs so well with the soy and miso and strong ginger and garlic because it is hearty and it can stand up to those. But it also pairs really well with a classic Caesar concept. Now, obviously, we know the Caesar salad to be those good old romaine lettuce leaves tossed with a very garlicky and cheesy, very thick and heavy dressing, and with bread croutons and more Parmesan cheese on top. I like to kind of lean into that flavor combination, but put a healthier spin on it and look more about eating a full meal using the same concept of a Caesar with, instead of romaine, these fabulous shredded Brussels sprouts. So first thing I'm gonna do is just show you how to make a quick Caesar vinaigrette. Now, classically, you start with an egg yolk and you whisk in same way you would make a homemade mayonnaise. In this version, I'm going to start with a little bit of Dijon mustard, and this is about a tablespoon for the quantity I want to make. Dijon is a great way to begin an emulsification for a dressing. It also is very classic flavor in Caesar dressing. So I'm gonna whisk together a bunch of flavor ingredients, talk through it, and then show you how to put the salad together with the Brussels sprouts. So, a little bit of Dijon. I roasted a head of garlic, and all that I did was cut the garlic head in half, drizzle it with olive oil, ball it up in some foil, and put it in a 325-degree oven for about 25 minutes. I get cloves that are slightly softened, some of the sweetness has come out of them, and that really brash raw garlic flavor, which sometimes is fantastic, but other times you want it more mellow, and that you lose that when you roast it, so you get a sweeter, mellow flavor. So right in this bowl, I'm just gonna add about 5 or 6 of those roasted garlic cloves. I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of black pepper and about 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese, a little dash of Worcestershire sauce. This, by the way, this salad is a vegetarian dish. If you are vegetarian, a strict vegetarian, please know that Worcestershire sauce actually has a little bit of anchovies in it, and that's what gives it a really fantastic flavor. Just look for one that says vegan, and then it won't include the anchovies. So I'm first going to grab the wrong tool. First going to take the back of a spoon and just kind of crush those garlic cloves. Again, they're already softened from the roasting, so it should be no problem at all. I just want to flatten them so they mix with the dressing well. Okay. And then, instead of creating a mayonnaise, I am going to use about 2 tablespoons of a plain yogurt. Now, I like to do this for several reasons. First of all, I like the tang that the yogurt adds. Secondly, wherever I can reduce that saturated fat, I choose to do it. Of course, I'm gonna add some other delicious things in here that have other really yummy saturated fats in them, and that's okay. It's all about balance and in your diet and being reasonable. So where I can use something like a non-fat plain yogurt, I do. Last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of lemon juice as another acidic component. And then once I have these things in the bowl, I'm going to drizzle in a little bit of olive oil. Now, because this is a salad we're going to eat right away, you don't have to worry about it being perfectly emulsified. Although certainly the yogurt and the Dijon really aid in that emulsifying. And then I'm just going to taste this vinaigrette, Caesar vinaigrette. Certainly, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Of course, we are going to put Parmesan in there, and I'm going to top it with some chickpeas too, but I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt in here. And so in this kind of a mock Caesar dressing, you get all those really strong, delicious, satisfying flavors, but it's just a little bit more of a healthy spin on it. If you're interested, I can also give you a recipe to make this using a cashew cream, where instead of the yogurt, you soak raw cashews, puree them, and you get a cream that is really unctuous and totally vegan. So here's the dressing. What I'm going to actually do now, I like to do this when I'm making a salad on the go, or on the fly, I should say. Make the vinaigrette right in the bowl that you plan to serve the salad out of. So now I'm going to toss in all those shredded Brussels sprouts, and I'm just going to kind of carefully turn the bowl and toss the Brussels in there so that they're all coated. Now again, you want that vinaigrette to be kind of strong because it's going to coat all these leaves. A lot of times when we taste vinaigrette and we do it the way I did, just stabbing yourself with a fork as you're tasting it, it's going to taste strong, it's going to taste acidic, but that's okay because you have to remember that it's going to coat a leaf. So no matter what vinaigrette, what salad you're making, it's also very helpful to taste it with the vegetable that you intend to eat it with. So here are the Brussels sprouts, shredded Brussels sprouts, tossed with the vinaigrette. And just to plate one of these salads, I'm going to put a bed of this shredded Brussels that's tossed with the Caesar dressing right there. I'm gonna add a few chickpeas that I've tossed with just a little bit of olive oil and some harissa. Now again, I'm trying to make a satisfying lunch or dinner even, frankly. And the way that I love salads is that it has many different varieties of textures and flavors in there. So it's not boring at all. For me, salad, yes, it's a healthy food, but that's almost less important than the fact that it's a great way to showcase many different flavors. So I'm gonna use chickpeas for some croutons. So I'm not even gonna, this is gonna be technically a gluten-free meal, almost accidentally. Another thing I wanted to show you about was polenta croutons. Now, if you make polenta, it's kind of a porridge with cornmeal, very similar to grits. If you have extra one night, if you put it flat in a baking sheet, save it. Then it gets very hard and you can pan fry some of these squares and get these little tiny cubes of polenta that are really wonderful to use as a crouton. Again, rounding out the salad with these little very savory but gentle squares, a custardy in the middle but kind of crispy on the outside. I'm gonna top it with a little bit of pumpkin seeds and a little bit more shaved Parmesan. Now, this is certainly sufficient by itself, delicious. If I want to take it up even another notch, I might take an orb of burrata, and you could buy a small one, that would be really helpful, but in this case, I got a large one. So again, if this is gonna be your whole meal, I'm thinking about being satisfied using healthy proteins and complete proteins. So I'm putting a little orb of burrata there and topping it with a few little capers that have been marinated in a lemony olive oil. Always with Caesar, you need a top of fresh cracked black pepper. And there you go. There's so many directions here, right? I gave you a lot of information in these 12 minutes, but please know that it's to your benefit to consider Brussels sprout as a salad, not just a roasted side vegetable. If you have any questions at all, please send me an email, allison@lastbitechef.com. Thanks for watching.